I think food justice is a nice place to go next, and I'm curious to know for each of your groups what your vision is for food justice, and in your view, what does urban food production have to do with the concept of food justice? And the second piece of that is that a lot of food justice organizations are working across class and cultural boundaries. So we're curious to know how members of your organization adapt to different ways of organizing and working with different sectors of your community. So who wants to start on that one? You guys again?
We can start.
Sounds good.
Yeah, so I thought I'd like you guys start. Just tell, since you guys have been in East New York your whole lives, what is your vision for a better food system in East New York?
My vision is like, in my community we have like a lot of fast food restaurants, so like I would like to see like less of that and like more access to fruits and vegetables, like organically fruits and vegetables. So less of the fast food and more of the organic fruits and vegetables, and people actually, actually like building their health.
I agree with Camille. I would like to see less fast food because there's like 8 or 10 right across the street from my house alone, so that's bad. I would like to see more farmers markets like ours and more organic fresh fruit in supermarkets because they don't really have good quality food in our supermarkets.
Yeah, I think, and what it really comes down to for East New York Farms is that we're sort of forming creative responses to provide access to affordable, high-quality food. And the project actually has its roots in community organizing, more so than any sort of food or agriculture work in particular. Our project came out of a community opinion forum that was instituted by Pratt in 1995, where they assessed the needs and resources in East New York. And so among the resources they identified were 60 community gardens, which is the most of any community in New York City. And with those gardens, a lot of gardeners who are connected to other organizations already making change in the community, such as block associations, schools, churches. And they also identified a high concentration of youth. East New York is one of the youngest community districts in the city. 1 in 3 people is under 18. So they saw that as a resource. Some of the needs that they saw were a need for more open spaces, more green spaces, more safe public spaces where people can meet their neighbors, and a need for more jobs for youth and adults, and the need for greater access to fruits and vegetables. So out of that came our project, and throughout our project it's really been community-led, and sort of the priorities of the project have changed throughout the years as funding has come along, and also as new people have brought their energies into the project. And 3 years ago, with the help of Heifer International, we developed a planning and review process that we do at the end of each season to take input from all the various members, vendors, gardeners, youth, customers at the market, interested residents, to take their input and then come up with ideas to address some of the issues that we've identified, and then make our plans going into the future based on that.
With regard to food justice, I want to say that, for one, the Gardens for Humanity initiative actually is relatively new. I came on board to Cornell Cooperative Extension in 2008 in October. And prior to me coming on board, there had been one meeting that was scheduled by a young lady, Christine Porter, who is a PhD candidate here in the nutrition department. And she called together a group of community leaders to have a think tank on food justice. And at that meeting, there were people that definitely wanted to see how the issue around food justice was really playing in to the greater goal of the whole community project at that point, and that was to address childhood obesity. And in that group, people expressed issues around justice. And the themes that came up consistently was about affordability, accessibility, and quality. So what we were speaking on was issues that people had concerns around the significant number of people who consequently have health and chronic health conditions that could be could be remedied by a different type of a diet, but because of their situation and their socioeconomic status in the community, they were not able to, these individuals were not able to access food, and the food that they did have access to was not of great quality. Many of the people also found that, and subsequent to that meeting, and when I came on board, I definitely recognized that the whole community project was looking through a lens that needed to be expanded to really include the social justice piece in it, and also be inclusive in terms of who the people are at the table who are talking about this, because we know that, we learned, and it was very obvious that there is a childhood obesity issue, there's an adult obesity issue, and as a result of this particular group, we learned that part of what people were saying is that it's not that I don't want to eat well, it's that I can't afford to eat well. And I don't, these foods are not accessible to me. And so that in itself spun off a real interest to bring together people who would address the food justice piece. What can we do to actually improve that? What can we do to make foods more healthy, particularly fruits and vegetables? And that was part of the birthing of the Gardens for Humanity initiative, where people said, well, we can grow our food, and that seemed to be one of the most viable ways. And also gardening is very enjoyable too. I would say that one of the challenges that come about with that is defining what food justice is, because there are people who might not see this issue as an issue of food justice, but when we look at those individuals who seem to be most affected by poor nutrition, it seems that it's an issue of accessibility. So the Gardens for Humanity initiative here is really, the goal is to keep it, to maintain it as an inclusive organization, an inclusive entity where all the voices of the community are heard, and actually that those voices and the input from people in the community is honored in finding and creating the solutions to the accessibility and the affordability issues. Did you have any other comments on?
Or do we want to talk about the working across class?
You can do that.
So yeah, we really think that most food justice organizations are really working on the edge of different cultures and classes, and so there's a lot of sensitivity that comes along with that. I don't know if you all noticed, but I'm a white male. In this line of work, though, that can be a real liability because the history of what white males have done to our whole planet, basically, it's not a happy one. So it's been a lot of work for me to not be who I am sometimes, not be the one that's dominating a conversation, or coming up with all of the ideas, or thinking that I know everything. It's been a lesson in really sitting back and listening, and being more of a support role, and just learning a lot. And also, in white activist culture, there's a lot of meetings and surveys and a lot of talking about our issues and stuff like that. That's not how things work in the real world. I've had to learn how to adapt a lot to the way that other people do business, and it's more casual and more sitting down for a cup of coffee and just chatting and just building relationships, and that leads to other things eventually, but building those relationships is more important than me forwarding my agenda or whatever. So.
And whether it's Josh, my white male friend here, and colleague that I work with, or me, because the truth is that Ithaca is a small community, and Tompkins County is a small community, and basically the main employers, the main basis of power here in this community is academic. And So here I am coming in and going into the community, and had not I lived here since the early 80s, I would not have the leverage to even be having a conversation, because there is a resistance in the, you're on the hill, you don't understand what I'm going through, on down, what's going on the ground in the communities. And that is a challenge on all fronts. And I think that one thing that has been really helpful in this has been involving students in that process, to really engage students not just in the research capacity and on campus, but to actually engage students in the community with some preparation to some of the social justice issues and social disparities that cause issues in the community that around food injustice. So it's been really a learning experience for me, I know, in figuring out how to change that image of food security and urban agriculture from one that in our community reflects to many people white, affluent individuals who are socially conscious and have solar panels, etc. And I was very encouraged to have this group of folks come in, since I'm from Brooklyn, to illustrate that this is happening all over the community, so.
I think that all the issues that the other panelists have mentioned have really nicely set the stage for how, kind of the background behind our Healthy Soils project. And really what we're seeing is that there's all this great momentum behind urban agriculture and community gardening, yet at the same time we're hearing more and more of a buzz about concerns about soil contaminants. And we really see that there's a need for information. So it's, food justice isn't the central focus of our project per se, but it's certainly related to this need to equip communities to be able to reap all of the benefits of urban ag and of gardening, but also be aware of some of the other things that they should be thinking about, and give them the information and the tools that they need to make good decisions about their situations, so that all of the many benefits that everyone has been talking about here aren't, that there's not instead a focus on some of the problems that can arise when we're building farms and gardens in situations where land has been used for many other things in the past. So I think I'll leave it at that for now.
So we're really excited that we were able to have two of the youth members from East New York Farms join us today, and so we had a set of questions specifically for those folks, and then I'll ask the other groups questions related to youth involvement, but wanted to give you guys a chance to speak since you came all this way. So I wanted to ask Camille and Mashira how you got involved in East New York Farms. So what attracted you to the program, and why did you get involved? Who wants to start?
How I got involved is that, somebody came to my school and started talking about the program, and really truthfully, when they mentioned how much we got paid, I wanted to, join it. But then again, I really thought that we was gonna go on a farm, because ever since I was a baby, all thing I do is play in dirt. So I was like, I like to do those things. So I signed up, I went for the interview, and then I got accepted. And then when I, started working I found out I was working in the garden. So I was like, it's okay for me, it's still dirt. So, yeah, but ever since I started working there, except for just doing it for the money, I realized it's just more than just the money. It's actually, you're helping out your community, doing a big thing, helping up with their health, and it's and also trying to help out the youth in the community. It helped affect me in a big way, change me and change my household. So yeah, and knowing the fact that I'm going to be becoming a nurse, this also is going to be helping me with my nursing skills in the future.
What about you, Mashira?
Me and my friends, we went around the community looking for jobs, and we went into the daycare center, and they said that it was an internship program in the basement. So we went downstairs and we all got applications. I forgot about my application, and I remembered it the day that it was due, so I had to run and get it, fill it out, and bring it back, and by some miracle I got the job. What I really liked about the job is that I could start at the age of 13 SYEP jobs, you have to be 14 and older to do it, so that was cool. That was 13. I was meeting a lot of new people, and I wasn't the only new person there. I was a first year intern, and it was more like me, so I wasn't the only shy person, so that was good. And I enjoyed learning about fresh fruits and vegetables while earning a stipend.
That's great, thanks. And for both of you, what's your favorite part about being involved in East New York Farms? Does anything stand out?
My favorite part is being a returning intern because it's like more responsibility and like, you know, you're having like trust, like people to trust you with what you know have to do and stuff. So like, yeah, being a returning intern and to seeing that different youth from different cultures, different ages, you know, come together helping out the community that they live in and doing more with their life and just, you know, getting to know each other and, you know.
I also love being a return intern, specifically a fourth year intern, because you do get more responsibilities other than a higher pay. You get to come on conference trips like this one. And I love leading workshops to the first year interns and seeing their faces light up when they realize that people in Jamaica get paid like 5 cents a week for making Tommy Hilfiger clothes, and that we don't have fresh fruits and vegetables like we should have in East New York. And so it's great.
What about, would you say there are any challenges for you being involved in the farm?
Like the balance of getting there on time in school, because not the fact that, you know, you only work like 2 to 3 days after school, and it's like get the straight from school you gotta get there, and it's kind of like hard because not the fact that the distance into your job, you know, where school is, but like I work it out by, you know, sitting down and speaking to the staff about it, and like we work it out, as if you're just, you know, sitting there and just having it on your mind, you're not gonna really get nowhere, and just gonna add, it's just gonna be like out of, you know, a job, so it's like more like opening up and telling them like what's.
Yeah. It takes up time, so it's like if you want to join a team, it might be difficult but not impossible because our supervisors, they try to help us out with our schedules as much as possible. The difficult weather, because we work in any kind of weather, whether it's hot or it's raining, whatever, so like Camilla and I, we're used to it because we're returning interns, but like the first years, they're not used to that, so they might have some negative comments about it, so just dealing with that. And just taking a risk, because when you think about, you never think about growing fruits and vegetables in Brooklyn, so it's like, you know, people's criticism, but then you explain it out and they're like, oh, it's cool. So yeah.
The last one is, do you think, or do you have any ideas for how we could expand this type of opportunities for your peers? How do you think you guys can maybe get other folks involved in thoughts?
Well, other than just like telling our friends about it, we can like tell people in our schools or around in communities, because every year the return interns, we go around to junior high schools and we tell them all about our program and how they can apply. So just like continuing doing that and put out flyers about the program.
You know, like Michelle said, go to junior high schools, talk about it, and put up flyers. I even tell my little brother friends. I tell my sister friends, my even younger people that, you know, hang out with me. I tell them about it, and I tell their friends. And like, yeah. And sometimes people will stop me in the street if they notice me. They'll stop me in the street and ask me about it, and I would just tell them how they can join and what we do.
Are they usually pretty interested?
Yeah.
That's great. And we wanted to ask the other groups that are here, like how you plan to involve youth in your programming, if you do, and what are your goals for interacting with youth? And I think we heard a little bit about this.
Yeah, so I mentioned the after-school program that we're working on. We actually work with Southside 1 day a week, and then in the summer they have a summer camp. Also GIAC, which is the Greater Ithaca Activity Center, has a summer camp that we work with. And Southside actually has a garden right there, so we do all the planting, and then once stuff is ready, we harvest it, and we take them into the kitchen, and they get to help out with the food preparation. So they get to be part of the whole process from seed to plate. And they're learning about gardening, but they're also learning a little bit about cooking skills and getting more confidence from that. There's actually one boy, Charles, who's like my buddy. Like all winter long, he was pestering me. He's like, "When are we gonna plant? When are we gonna plant?" And so like every time he asked me, it was like an opportunity to like talk about like when our growing season is around here. But I'm also trying to get it more set up so that we can grow during a longer season. So we're doing like season extension techniques, and we have a mini hoop house set up there, which went pretty well this winter. And then we're starting a youth-run urban farm in conjunction with the Full Plate Farm Collective, Lehman Alternative Community School, and the Congo Square Market this summer. So we're trying to create 25 positions that would be for 14 and 15-year-olds, possibly more, but actually state funding is only for 14 and 15-year-old positions this year. They're basically picking up because the Full Plate was going to not run that farm this year because the farmer is really busy with the rest of his life. Actually the CSA members were like, no, we really want this spot to still be active. We want to pick our food up here. So the kids are going to be running a U-Pick for the Full Plate, and they'll also be able to, every week take produce home to their families. And eventually, if we get some funding, we'll try to move into like creating value-added products and working more in the kitchen and learning some of those skills. And then one day a week, they'll have an enrichment day where they're going to be learning about the social justice and food justice issues behind what they're doing out in the fields, and also like some of those cooking skills and more like just general knowledge. We're also working to support BJM's Fresh Fruits and Vegetables Snack Program. Again, because of the lack of funding, they were going to stop that program this year. But there was a meeting and a bunch of community members and educators came together, and they were like, no, this is too important to let it go, so we're going to figure out how to make it work. So now that's another aspect of what this farm is going to be doing, is providing food for BJM, and not just BJM, we're expanding it to serve GIAC and some other programs as well. So kids are going to be basically on the front lines of food justice here in Ithaca.
Do you want to add anything about
I'll say a few things. We're pretty early on in our project, and so right now we're really trying to figure out exactly what we're going to do on the research end of things, and more of the education will come later. But for now, we're thinking through all the details of how we're going to collect soils and plant tissue samples from different gardens and potentially farms as well in cities throughout New York State. And one of the needs that we're identifying is just people that are able to get out there and help us just collect these soils. So we're thinking through and looking into possible creative ways to just get some help out in the fields to collect samples. Specifically, I think we're going to continue to have more opportunities for undergrads and grad students to be involved in the project. But we're also considering possibly some partnerships with schools or that kind of thing where younger youth could be involved in our project as well. And then more down the road, once we shift more to the education side of things and trying to really spread the details of what we've learned through this project, we really hope that youth can be involved in those efforts, and I think it's going to make sense to target younger people and really just get information out there so that they can learn to ask the right questions and help to make a difference, to find out as much information as they can about their sites and what good decisions would be for particular farms or particular gardens.
I think related to this idea of youth involvement, and we've heard you guys speak to it a little bit, is the idea of the new economic opportunities that are being generated by urban ag initiatives, and local economic development is one focus of many of these types of groups, especially in the U.S. And so I was curious if you could provide any more details on employment opportunities that you see being generated by urban or community gardening projects and how that happens. Maybe we'll start with East New York Farms again.
One of the opportunities I think is obvious. Camille and I were SYP, it helped with the funding and it might get cut, so we like to have a hand in trying to preserve SYP.
I think one other thing too that I'd add is that we try to also use the market to stimulate rural economies as well. And there's a great mutual relationship happening in our market where the urban farmers and the urban growers are growing a lot of the niche crops, like the ethnic specialty crops like Malabar spinach, callaloo, okra, long beans, bitter melon, which a lot of the larger upstate farmers aren't growing. But the upstate farmers are providing a lot of the volume. And so it's really that connection in terms of having the selection, and then also in terms of outreach. Those of us who are farming every day in East New York, we can talk to people about the market, and so we build up that trust and those relationships on a day-to-day basis. And so it allows farmers market to succeed in a way that it might not if the farmers just pulled up one day out of their produce on a Saturday. So, it's really helping our community out, but it's also helping out communities upstate and small family farmers that are coming into the city to sell their food. And that, especially during a time when there's a lot of farmers markets growing and there's a lot of competition for farmers, we can attract farmers to our market because we have a significant customer base.
Gardens for Humanity.
Well, I would say in addition to what Josh shared about the farm connection that's going to be happening this year, and what I want to say is that when Gardens for Humanity initially started last summer, it started simultaneously with a market that was being set up in the Southside community, and that market we've been referring to as Congo Square Market. And Congo Square is an actual place in New Orleans where enslaved Africans would leave the plantation and gather together with amongst themselves and other white allies at that time and different indigenous folks to the land and just be in their own element and enjoy food and enjoy music, etc. And the founder of this Congo Square Market wanted to replicate something to stimulate that type of community and collective, nourishment of the Southside community. So when I met with Jakeem the first time and we started sharing ideas around this, one of the themes that came up consistently in this market was to not only support healthy eating for our community and hopefully increase people's exposure to and their availability to affordable produce and fruits. We also wanted to see how this could, we have a vision of this turning around so that it will provide opportunities in the community for young people to learn how to take some of the produce, take the herbs, and make value-added products. So to backtrack a little bit, last year there were several people, and the Gardens for Humanity initiative is one that depends on a lot of community volunteer help. So while I was not even that much aware of it happening, someone went off with a great idea and started a project called Playing with Your Food. And Josh and I were fortunate enough at the end of that summer program to be invited to a full course meal. How many?
I don't know, too many persons.
Yeah, too many courses. And young people were actually had prepared the food, described where it came from, etc. And all of that I see as a real promise for young people, even starting their own cafe, marketing their own goods. So I definitely see this as a really important way to encourage young people to keep to take what they're learning through their farming, and also if they have an interest in restaurant, chef, cooking, there's so many different possibilities to it. And our commitment here with the Gardens for Humanity is to support the economic well-being of the community. So if in any way that we can do that, that is part of the vision.